Bless you.
To most, Hocus Pocus has always been a strange, campy Halloween family film. A tame movie with flying witches, chatty cats, and plenty of laughs to keep children giggling. The reality, though, is stranger, and the tale of how it happened is not much tamer than the Sanderson Sisters themselves. The movie we see today was not conceived as a family comedy. It started as a curse, literally a dark little bedtime tale shared by a father with his daughter about a boy fated to exist eternally in the form of a cat. Producer David Kirshner wove that yarn in his house one evening, his daughter's eyes wide with every word. She was both appalled and entranced, and that response had something strong to say to him. If a child could be ensnared by such a story, perhaps the world could be. He put it into words, decorated it with grotesque drawings of witches and an isolated boy confined in fur, and initially he saw it as a children's book. Publishers rejected. The book was too strange, too dark, too creepy for bedtime shelves. But Kirshner didn't dig it a grave. He turned it around. He shopped it as a movie concept instead, taking that bedtime creepiness directly into Hollywood boardrooms. The response was tepid, too weird, too creepy, not Disney material. But sometimes the most terrifying incantations don't issue from musty grimoires. They are the product of parents spinning yarns in the dark, and this tale would not die. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel Star Vault TV, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. In its original form, the script did not even bear the title Hocus Pocus. It was titled Halloween House, and it was darker. Picture 12-year-olds venturing into actual danger, witches who do not wink at the audience, curses that do not unravel at the sound of a chuckle. There were no candy-coated jokes, no musical numbers. It was an authentic nightmare presented as a family expedition. The Disney suits thought of scaling it down into a made-for-TV film, safe, inexpensive, forgettable. But draft after draft blunted the hard edges. What began as shivers in the dark turned into slapstick mayhem. The witches grew spooky and comical in equal proportion, the sort of evil children could laugh at and still hide behind the couch. Halloween House vanished from the title page to be replaced by something odder, goofier, more marketable, Hocus Pocus. The horror had become a comedy, and, in the industry, something mystical occurred. It ceased being merely another Halloween ghost tale and became a spell no one could quite put their finger on. The script at one time found itself on the desk of Steven Spielberg, who at the time of his Amblin Entertainment peak. On paper, it was the makings of a dream team, the reigning monarch of cinematic fantasy leading Disney's next blockbuster Halloween film. But the problem was in Spielberg's mind. Disney was his competition, then not his friend, and providing them with a hit would be giving a competitor a boost. So he politely declined. The irony, naturally, is that a few years later he was working with Disney on Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Arachnophobia, both huge hits. Had Spielberg not left Hocus Pocus, it could have been something entirely different. Instead, it was Disney's weirdo experiment, a risk that would only pay off decades on. The Sanderson Sisters casting was another bout of chance and circumstance. Rosie O'Donnell was offered Mary Sanderson, but declined, concerned the character was too dark for her reputation. Cloris Leachman tested for Winifred and briefly annoyed witches everywhere with her own scream of, "I have only to close my eyes to see you." Leonardo DiCaprio, fresh off this boy's life, was almost Max, but he opted out to star in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, earning him his first Oscar nomination. Each No redesigned the film. And into those vacancies came Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Omri Katz. It didn't appear to be a dream team at the time, but it played like alchemy. Because sometimes casting isn't about who's a yes. It's about who's a no, and who leaves space for magic. The project languished for years. Too intense for children, too goofy for adults. Disney came close to killing it outright. But then Bette Midler read the script. Midler was already a legend in 1992, the divine Miss M, adorned with Grammys, Tonys, and blockbuster films. She could have played anything. She instead fell for Winifred Sandred. She called it one of the greatest scenes she'd ever read and vowed to sink her teeth into every line, every cackle, every glower. Her enthusiasm revived the project. If Midler was convinced, perhaps audiences would be as well. Production came alive again. Najimy and Parker came aboard. And overnight the film had its heart. Even years after, Midler referred to Winifred as her favorite role. It wasn't a role. It was an actress rescuing a film through sheer will of needing to do a witch louder, brasher, prouder than anyone else. In 1993, CGI wasn't instant magic like it is now. To get the Sanderson sisters to fly, crews tied the actresses into bulky harnesses, suspending them on wires as technicians tugged and maneuvered them across the air. It was exhausting. Hours of hanging sore shoulders and uncomfortable balancing. But that's why the flying scenes work so convincingly. The witches weren't computer trickery. They were performers swaying and responding to wires, actual women suspended in actual air. The magic was sheer theater. And then, of course, there was Billy Butcher's son, the stitch-lipped zombie, played by Doug Jones. His coming back from the dead involved an unforgettable gag, moths flying out his mouth. Yes, real ones. Special effects teams created a safe pocket within his latex mouthpiece, and when the time came, Jones opened his jaws wide and let loose live moths straight into the air. He never complained. The photo, grotesque and real, was one of the film's most frightening scenes. Viewers didn't merely notice the moths. They felt it wasn't prosthetic. Omri Katz, who acted Max, had his own shock. At only 16, he arrived on set one day, behaving peculiarly tired, eccentric. Director Kenny Ortega summoned him aside, and Katz owned up he had smoked beforehand. In a Disney film, with Bette Midler on set, Ortega didn't dismiss him. He yelled at him and sent him back out onto the set. Ironically enough, that shaky moment of adrenaline seeped into his performance. When Max wincing from the lightning bolt sent by Winifred, some of it is genuine, he was still smarting from the anger of the director. Occasionally, film magic isn't accomplished with special effects, but with teenagers learning their lessons in the workplace. The early versions of the film went darker yet. One scene involved Mary rolling a shoplifted infant out of a supermarket in a shopping cart. Not a doll, not a joke, but an actual baby. Disney trimmed it before production started, but remnants remain in storyboards and transcripts. The Sanderson sisters weren't intended to be humorous. They were intended to scare. Years down the line, in Hocus Pocus 2, the witches once again drifted into a shop, but the horror was missing. Instead of stealing babies, they boggled at potions and lotions in Walgreens. Slapstick had replaced the horror, but aficionados aware of the cutscene knew exactly how close the movie had come to embracing real terror. While the film took place in Salem, a lot of it wasn't shot there at all. Major scenes were filmed on the Warner Brothers Ranch in Burbank, California. That fountain where the kids convene, the very same one during the opening credits of Friends. Again, Max's neighborhood reappeared in American Beauty, with Thora Birch returning as an adolescent in a whole different capacity. Even National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation filmed on the same streets. The witches of Salem were infesting the same Hollywood blocks where sitcoms and Oscar winners lived. Then there was Binks, the boy doomed to become a black cat. It took an entire army to bring him to life. Human Binks was played by Sean Murray, but his voice was supplied by Jason Marsden to provide him with the proper sly demeanor. As many as 9 various cats took turns playing the part, each having been trained for a particular task, one to jump, one to remain still, another for close-ups. When all of the animals refused to cooperate, an animatronic cat acted in its place. The effect was seamless. People believed in one cursed animal, not a mosaic of cats, actors, and robots. Even the costumes had spells attached to them. Bette Midler was not having any of that plain black dress nonsense. She collaborated with designer Mary Voigt to design a flamboyant, eye-catching appearance, profusions of green and purple, gold stitchery, glittery accents. It embodied Winifred's vanity, her desire for melodrama. She was not some which huddled in darkness. She marched into Halloween legend, sewn together by the actress who portrayed her. On location, tiny improvisations provided the Sandersons with their eccentricities. Amid a crazy shoot, Kathy Najimy proposed the sisters clasp hands and repeat a soothing circle. Ortega adored it, shot it, and retained it. That little bit of unscripted magic showed them not only as evil, but also as sisters, flustered, goofy, crazy, but tied together. Najimy's idea became one of the witch's favorite rituals. For Sarah Jessica Parker, her portrayal of Sarah Sanderson had a ghostly personal edge. Decades later, while taping the Ancestry series Who Do You Think You Are?, Parker learned that among her actual ancestors, Esther Elwell was accused of witchcraft in Salem. Charges were later dismissed, but the connection was unmistakable. Unbeknownst to her, Parker had walked into her own family's own cursed past. Winifred's venomous insults weren't mere comedic invention. Midler insisted her curses be based in genuine historical precedent. Writers delved into ancient Elizabethan collections of insults, drawing out words such as pox-ridden and maggoty. Mixed with Midler's Broadway snark, they became indelible. Her dialogue did not simply sound camp, it sounded sinister, bringing echoes of half-forgotten legend. Because